Compound interest is the eighth wonder of the world. We all love that saying, but in practice, compound interest is just math, not magic. If you're investing only a few dollars or hundreds per month, early growth is painfully slow. As one advisor bluntly notes, compound growth is not an immediate miracle solution to make one rich. In other words, with a small balance, compound interest behaves like a weak engine. It barely moves the needle. Let's explore why compounding really kicks in only once your portfolio reaches a substantial size. Imagine Jane, a 25-year-old entry-level worker who diligently invests $100 from each paycheck into an index fund. She's heard the story. Start early, even small deposits will snowball over time. But 5 years in, her account shows only about $6,000 to $7,000. Jane feels discouraged. She's exactly in the phase where compounding's snowball effect is negligible. In fact, finance experts describe the first few years or tens of thousands in savings as a gestation period when the growth curve is very shallow. During this phase, almost all of her portfolio growth comes from her own contributions. Only later, after the principal grows large, does interest start generating interest in a big way. Compounding isn't like pushing a rock that magically races downhill. It's more like pushing a heavy boulder uphill. At first, it barely moves. In the same way, a small investment balance generates only a tiny absolute return each year. Interest equals principal times rate. Unless the principal, your capital, is large, those interest amounts stay modest. This is financial physics. The compound formula, A equals P times 1 plus R to the power of T, obeys mathematical laws. A bigger initial P bends the exponential curve more steeply. If P is small, the curve stays nearly flat for a long time. Think of it like a snowball rolling down a hill. A tiny snowball stays tiny and rolls slowly. Only after it gets big can it pick up significant size and speed. Likewise, your savings need scale before compounding feels powerful. The numbers bear this out. Consider investing just $100 per month into a stock fund. Assume a 6% annual return. After 30 years, you will have contributed $36,100, and the account will be worth roughly $98,000. It sounds big, but remember, it took 30 years to get there. In that scenario, most of the final $98,000 and about $62,000 came from interest, yes. But look at the contributions. Your own savings accounted for $36,000. In other words, even after decades, the result is only modestly above the total you put in. Until you hit a six-figure balance, growth is still relatively linear and slow. Now contrast that with having a large lump sum. If you already have $100,000 invested, a 5% return produces $5,000 in 1 year and about $62,000 over 10 years with no extra effort. That's roughly $416 per month, quietly flowing from your existing money. If instead you only had $10,000 invested, 5% yields just $500 in a year, about $6,000 over 10 years, barely $41 per month. In Jane's case, with only a few $1,000s invested, 5% interest would have added maybe $50 to $100 per year, effectively invisible next to her contributions. This illustrates the key point. Absolute interest equals principal times rate. If the principal is small, the absolute interest is tiny. Only when the principal is large, say $100,000 or more, does that 5 to 8% become significant income. Think of it like a car's engine. A tiny motor won't move a heavy load, but a 500 horsepower engine will. Until your account is big enough, compounding is a weak engine. Experts often point out that the first $100,000 of savings is the hardest to build. One analysis shows that saving about $833 per month, roughly $10,000 per year, at 5% interest takes over 8 years to reach $100,000. Even then, 80% of that $100,000 came from your own savings, and only 20% came from interest. In other words, compounding only provided a small boost initially. Once you clear the $100,000 mark, everything changes. The next $100K, taking you to $200K, comes much faster, only about 6 more years, roughly 30% faster. By then, compounding does more heavy lifting. In fact, at $200,000, a 5% return is $10,000 per year, exactly what you might be saving each year, meaning your returns alone now match your annual contributions. Each additional $100,000 after that comes in even less time. Essentially, once you have a substantial base, the exponential growth finally bends upwards sharply. Put simply, compounding only feels powerful when the base is large. Before you hit that threshold, your growth will look almost linear. You're mostly seeing your own deposits plus a little extra. Afterward, interest on interest really kicks in and accelerates your wealth much faster. Another way to see this is by contrasting a lump sum investment with slow contributions. If you could immediately invest $100,000, every dollar starts working for you right away. But if you drip feed that $100,000 over a decade, $833 per month, your money sits in your wallet longer and misses out on early compounding. In our example above, investing $100,000 at 5% for 10 years would roughly double to about $200,000. By contrast, saving that money gradually and earning the same 5% would leave you with significantly less over the same period. This is why financial financial advisors note, the faster you can move toward accumulating your first $100,000 by saving or earning more, the sooner compounding accelerates your growth. The more money you save, either from reduced expenses or increased income, the faster you can move toward accumulating your first $100,000. Until you can deploy a lump sum of that amount, compounding on small deposits feels sluggish. Since compounding unlocks only after you have serious capital, the solution is to build that capital sooner. Here are some data-backed steps. 1. Increase your savings rate. Cut expenses and live on less. Budget aggressively. Every dollar you redirect from spending into saving is working as an additional principal that will compound later. Even small cuts, coffee shop drinks, extra subscriptions, etc., add up over time. 2. Boost your income. Raise your earning power. Pursue higher-paying jobs, ask for raises, or pick up a side gig. In fact, financial experts explicitly note that picking up a second job will help you get there faster. Every extra dollar earned and invested speeds up, reaching the $100,000 mark. 3. Pay off high-interest debt. Interest payments on debt, credit cards, high-rate loans are guaranteed losses. Eliminating debt frees up more cash flow to invest. An early payoff can effectively raise your savings rate. 5. Automate and pay yourself. First, treat savings like a bill. Set up automatic transfers so you invest as soon as you get paid, not after spending. One expert tip: pay yourself first, budget your savings, then automate your contributions with every paycheck. This ensures you consistently build principal without thinking about it. 5. Optimize investments. Use tax advantage accounts like 401k, Roth IRA to boost your effective returns. Reinvest dividends and interest rather than spending them, so your account keeps growing. By either saving more aggressively or earning more, you reach that $100,000 faster. Once there, compounding will do much of the rest, reducing the effort needed for future gains. Compounding is real, but its power is a second-order effect. The first-order effect is how much you have to compound. If you stay too small, compound interest only adds a little linear boost. The exponential acceleration only arrives when your principal is large enough, on the order of $100,000 or more. So the secret isn't luck or just waiting. It's to change the curve by changing your inputs. Focus on building the principal through disciplined saving, higher income, and smart investing. That shifts the inflection point of the exponential curve. Once the principal is high, even moderate returns produce big absolute gains, and your net worth can start growing rapidly. Be honest, there is no magic bullet or shortcut past this reality, but there is a path. By intentionally living below your means, increasing your earnings, and treating investing as non-negotiable, you bend the compounding curve upwards sooner. That way, the second wind you hear about, when your money grows more passively, comes earlier in life. Then as time passes, your returns will feed on themselves like a growing snowball. Until then, rely on hard work and smart choices to do the heavy lifting. Compound interest is powerful, but only when backed by substantial capital.